Hey y'all, my name is Travis and welcome to Travis Brick's YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about facades. I've got a couple questions over the last couple weeks about the facades I use in my city and why I use them and kind of how I make them. So we're going to take a look at that today. While I still got some kind of accessible because they're not permanently built in. As you can see here, we're still not quite there on that one. And over there you can see we're still not quite there on that one either. So we're gonna take a look at them while they're still accessible and kind of where I got my inspiration for them and what goes into making them. If you've been following me a long time, you know that this part of the city and this facade especially has been literally one of the most static things throughout all the different changes in the actual city. I don't think I've changed this since I built it. That's actually a lie. I extended it by one, just kind of recently when I added on the new section and moved all of the tables around. I extended it by I think one base plate. So I think there is actually one new section. I think it's this one right here. But for the most part, this has been the same since day one. And this is almost a exact copy of Mr. Bookie Boo's facades from his old city layout. That's where I saw it. That's where I kind of copied, made it kind of my own to fit the city as far as height and additional things. I try to stick on all of my facades something to make them visually interesting. So there's some foliage, there's some masonry brick, there's some snot techniques in there. There's some Vidiyo tiles that kind of look like posters. Trying to see if there's any other ones in here. But you can see they're kind of all along here, kind of randomly. And then this is just a little divider just to kind of break up that. But yeah, so this is the original kind of design. And all the ones are kind of a variant of this. So as with everything I do, you can see it's clearly on the Mills standard. And it just so happens that 8 of these arches fits perfectly on a 32 by, or a 32 stud wide plate. So that's kind of what the general basis is. And I'll show you kind of some variants I've done on this. But this is all the same. The pillars always line up with the arch points. And you'll see kind of where some of the variations in that, that changes a little bit. But this is kind of the basic one. It is only a brick deep, 2 by whatever deep. So that if I take this off, it's only that wide. You can see this is all, I could pull that loose if I wanted to. Again, part of the modular thing. Some of them are connected into the upper plate. And these are actually sitting on this plate. So this is 30 studs, and then the last 2 studs are taken up by the plate because of this part of the city is only 3 base plates deep. So the wall needed to sit on the back side of this plate. We'll talk about some places where that's not necessarily the case. So let's take a look at some of the other variants that I have on this. Okay, so before we jump into the kind of variation on this, I want to show you that this wraps down into this tunnel. And this tunnel is kind of the way that I build all my tunnels, and they're just kind of flat. I don't go too ornate with them because I just want them to be kind of functional. But this is kind of the end of that run of things, and then into the tunnels. Again, same height. But if you look closely, the bricking patterns kind of change. I make up for some of the brick heights elsewhere than I do in this, because as you can see, there's kind of plates scattered all throughout, and over here there's not so many plates in there. So anyways, let's go look at this. This is kind of variation 1, and this is used in a couple other areas too, but there's a burp on the bottom, a little arch, and then I've continued that kind of grate all the way around. Again, because it's kind of with this, So I felt like I needed to continue the grate. And then this will be the pirate fortress area. And you can see I actually messed up on this, but I haven't really done too much with this because I'm going to build the pirate fortress kind of into this. So this is going to change a little bit, but this is essentially the same topper that is on the other facade. Is just the bottom part's burps, and then I switch over to just plain brick with that little grate in there. And let me see if I can get you a little closer over there. So you can see just kind of burps right into the wall. This is all still modular. This all still pulls apart. And unlike over on the other side, this is actually its own plate. So the front of this is where the front of the plate stops, and then back here is actually where the back of this stops. And if you remember when I looked at the botanical gardens, or my city garden area, the plate actually extends all the way back through. So it doesn't stop right there. It's not just a 16 wide plate. So that, again, just kind of making up the math to make it work within the grid system. But this was just kind of a simple way to not use a whole bunch of arches. And a lot of this is going to be hidden by the fortress anyways. So I wasn't too terribly concerned. And with coming down to the beach area, I thought maybe just doing rocks instead of doing arches was more appropriate. Arches, I feel like, are kind of more appropriate within a city confines. This is going down to the water. So I thought rock was maybe a little bit better of a choice here. Okay, let's look at another place where I use kind of this rock arch combination. Okay, so this is a section from the new part of the city that I haven't quite finished yet. I thought this would be a good way to show you kind of what goes into these and kind of what they look like on the backside and stuff. So as you can see, I've kind of alternated a couple different techniques in here. So this is just masonry brick that I built into it. This will receive a Technic pin to insert some foliage type stuff. I like to do it this way rather than a snot brick, because it makes it easier to kind of rotate so that it fits inside of this little frame. But you can also use a snot brick. And then I also would like it to be just a singular pin. And I was out of single snot bricks. This I will put maybe some posters, maybe attach a little bit of foliage to it as well. As you can see, I put lots of holes for foliage in here because I think that's a good way to kind of break them up. And you can see that I needed to accommodate this being a shorter plate. So these are actually the wider arches, as you can see. These are the 12s, okay? So 12, 24, and then to get to 32, you gotta do an 8, because this is the end of the run. And one thing to note is that the 12s take up 3 high, the 8s only take up 2 high. So on this side, I chose to keep the tops the same, and that's mostly because if I ever go to expand this out that way, that's a real easy swap there. Whereas if it was built down a little bit, it might be a little bit more of a difficult swap. So that's kind of where that is. And then obviously I talked about in one of my other videos about the overlapping of mills plates. So that's why there's a tile here and the other one kind of fits right into there. But this is also burps to wall. And you can see I've used a couple different types of burps, and this was mostly just to get the math to work out on the numbers. Usually I just do straight rows of burps, but this one's kind of cool because it's got a little bit of a different burp piece in there. And then let's flip this around to the back, and you can see that it's not always all 2x, right? So if I look at the corner here, you can see that there are some, this is up here at the top part, that I just use a 1x brick, gray brick in the front, and then a colorful brick in the back, because it doesn't really matter. And especially in here where I put some Technic pins to latch into that top walkway. That does 2 things. It, 1, supports the upper walkway, and 2, it kind of keeps everything square. And when I actually go to get this all kind of finalized, I will swap this type of pin out for an actual like Technic pin to Technic pin, so that it all snaps together and all kind of holds together well. And then you can see I didn't mills plate all the way to the back because there's no reason to, and just a little bit of supports in the back, again, just to kind of save some brick. But, so that's kind of the back side of the wall, and that's how kind of all of these look, is that if there's no need to use all gray bricks, I don't, because gray bricks are kind of hard to come by. I shouldn't say hard to come by, but they're a little bit more expensive to come by. So anywhere that I can fill in with colorful, cheap bricks, I definitely do. I have one more variation on this in the brand new part of the city that's still very much under construction. So we'll take a look at that. Oh, one last thing. I will eventually finish this off with a row of the cheese slopes. I don't think you necessarily need to. I think that a tile here would look equally as good, but cheese slopes is just kind of what I've done. And I decided to not do the extra little piece in here, somewhat because I didn't have the bricks, but also because these are a little bit taller arches. And I just thought the tall arch looked good enough that it didn't need any extra adornment. And as you can see, this is kind of all tied into this. And even there is a short little version of the facade in the same kind of style. And then the last thing I want to show you on this side of the room is the rock work. So this is the kind of end of the original facade. I go into this kind of mountain rock, but you can see there's still little bits of the facade that peek out that continue with the same thing. So it's easy and fun to kind of mix the two together, and I think it gives a little more natural look, like the facade was built into the rock. This is the newest and definitely the most advanced of the facades that I've done. And it's still very much a work in progress. This whole back area is very much a work in progress. It's a little bit of a parts constraint and a time constraint, to be honest. But this is the most complex facade I have done. So as you can see, this is half of a base plate here. Again, just making up some extra room. Not extra room, but just making up some room. And as you can see, I decided to angle the burps back just a little bit, and then chose to do a overhang to kind of account for the room. So I'm going to be very selective about what buildings go here. These are not the final buildings that are going to hit. They're just a placeholder for right now. As you can see, they're just a hot mess. I will need to be very careful because this actually overhangs by one brick. And I don't want to get into the situation that I got into on the other side. But anyways, all that to say that I designed this so that a mills plate will fit right in here. It lines up here, so I'll be able to lock it in with my railing or whatever I do for railing. It lines up perfectly there. And then if I flip around, and I just don't have another mills plate ready right now that I could show you, it lines up there as well. And so in theory, what I could do if I wanted to just work on just this plate, I could pull this out because it's kind of hard to reach back into that corner there. So I wanted to have a way that I could work on things easily. So I need to be able to pull them out. So that's what I did. As you can see, there's some Duplo underneath there, kind of holding the whole thing up. And there's arches in the front. I decided to put the small makeup arch kind of in the middle. And so the reason being, first off, I think it looks more aesthetically pleasing in the middle. And you can see I chose to keep the arch points at the same rather than the top of the arches the same on this one, which is the opposite of what it did on the other side. And that's because that's always going to be there. It's kind of sandwiched between these 2 points. And the expansion is going to happen over here, but that will be after a tunnel. So there was no reason to make that accessible to expansion. So I stuck it in the middle there. And yeah, so then over here, I'm kind of working on, sorry, I got to get around the table. I'm working on the tunnel for the road and the track, which will tie into that giant burp mountain, which kind of goes down into the Pirates Cove. So that's kind of where we're at with that. That giant base plate that's up there will be the museum someday eventually. I've already assumed that I'm going to expand it to double wide. So that's where that is right now. But This is kind of the most fun way that I could figure out to make my needs work for the facades back here. So this is definitely a work in progress, and I'll definitely update you when I get a little closer to this. I literally just ordered some parts to hopefully close in that tunnel that I've started, and I can show you a little bit more over there once I get that started. And I got the museum in the other day, so I can start to build that as well. So those are my couple different types of facades that I use. All right, so that's the different type of facades that I use. Let me know if you have any questions. You can either drop them in the comments and I'll try to answer them, or if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm happy to answer any messages there as well. If you got any specific questions, the biggest thing is just figuring out a design and style that works for you and sticking with it and figuring out the heights. Because obviously I have a couple different heights in my cities that I kind of need to work out individual brick patterns to make the most of them. So if you like this type of content, please make sure you like and subscribe to help me kind of grow this channel. Definitely some more city updates coming soon. Like I said, I got those parts ordered for the tunnel that will hopefully be in by the beginning of next week, so I can kind of get going on that. Thanks for watching, y'all.